if you Google background screening, no, or specifically um, how prevalent is lying on resumes is.
And I have with me the CEO and founder of Vanguard Screening Solutions. And we are going to talk about a very crucial step in the recruitment process, which is background screening. So I have with me here Jan Espino. Hi, Jan. How are you?
Hi, Cristina. How are you? Good evening to everyone, and thank you for inviting me tonight and giving me the chance to talk about background screening and our company Vanguard Screening.
Okay, so a few months ago, we guested one of your partners, which was in that episode of global mobility. So that's also one of your services and partner companies. Okay,
Yep.
so and then now is Vanguard. It's actually about background screening. So quick questions. Okay, so usually, okay, this is done by internally by the HR. Okay,
Yeah.
and then it's very well for medium-sized companies. They have not really thought of outsourcing this kind of role. Okay, so what are the commonly asked questions, Jan?
Yeah. Mostly, they ask us, well, besides how much it will cost, they ask us how long would it take, like how many days is the turnaround time. Also, we are asked what kind of information can we get, what kind of information can we legally ask. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
kasi usually they are worried about yung ano nga, mga data privacy issues,
Yeah.
etc. So, well, briefly, okay, so about data privacy issue, does that really affect, I mean, there any limitations because of the
Yes.
Data Privacy Act?
Yes, absolutely. No. Uh, Previously, probably 5, 7 years ago, we hear of other background screening companies, no, who do not require candidates to sign a letter of authorization to do a background check on them. No, so that's the number one and most important aspect of the data privacy law. The person who you will be collecting information about needs to give a an informed consent. So, and this usually in writing, no? So that's number one. We should not and we could not do any background checks without a signed letter of authorization from the subject, no, or from the applicant. So that's one. Second, when the data privacy law in the Philippines was implemented sometime in 2017 or 2018, um, a lot of the schools and some employers became very wary, of giving out information. Even if we already secured a signed letter of authorization, sometimes they ask the candidate to sign their own letter of authorization from the school or from the employer. Although they did not have to do that, I guess they were just trying to protect themselves, or maybe being or sometimes even
Very
overreacting
cautious.
or overly cautious, no? Yeah. So yeah, so that's the impact of the data privacy law on the background screening industry.
Okay. So anyway, what we're going to find out later is how Vanguard screening, okay, solutions can help you. But so the first one is it's a very crucial step in the process. And yun nga dyan, what are the benefits of, doing this extra step?
Yeah. Around in if you Google background screening, no, or specifically how prevalent is lying on resumes is, so you get figures somewhere between 30 or 60 or even 70%, no, depending on the country. In the Philippines, let's assume about 30 or 40% of resumes have, let's just call them inaccuracies. No?
So
So
this is not just about the job description. Okay, maybe they
yeah,
promoted themselves
yes,
also.
that is actually one of the more common ones. No, so for example, team leader became a supervisor, no, or
Mm.
analyst becomes a senior analyst. No, so that's one. And of course, I think people from our generation is very familiar with the Recto University. I'm not sure if it's still uso now. No, Recto meaning you can still get fake diplomas and fake transcripts. No, uh,
It, it's very rampant, I think, back. I remember back in 2005,
mm,
2008. Okay, we've heard of a lot of issues in the BPO industry. Okay,
yeah,
like there was somebody. So after having been promoted, okay, not just higher,
yeah,
bilang siguro nag-audit yung HR, or maybe because of like some business process cleansing of records, etc. Some managers or senior managers were being disciplined or went through disciplinary process kasi nga their diplomas were
yeah,
found to be fake. So yun uso nung time na yun,
yeah.
2005, 2008.
Yeah, so that's one, no? And also another thing that is another aspect, no, that is usually being fudged is the reason for leaving. Uh, it's usually when you ask someone reason for leaving, it's better pay or whatever, or taking a vacation or study leave or study break. Um, Significant number of them turn out to be false. So they were asked to leave the company. No, so we want to make sure that you really know who you are hiring. No? We're not saying that you should not hire anyone. You should not hire someone just because maybe they made a mistake or an honest mistake, or even if you catch them fudging on their um, on their resume or on their application form. But the important thing is you know who you are hiring, and then you can make an informed decision on your end, right?
Yes, and yeah, I think there are a lot. I mean, there are also certain nationalities, okay, that are quite, they have trust issues, okay,
Absolutely, yeah.
because like for example, when I worked for a Japanese company, I remember that one of the processes for their managers, would you believe they hired a private investigation firm, and then they had me followed.
Okay.
Parang I remember that one of the security in the security staff in my condo reported to me that somebody was asking around.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I kind of like put two and two together while I was on the job. Okay, so they just wanted to make sure that you are who you are.
Yeah,
Something.
exactly. Yeah, and also, especially if you're put in a very sensitive position, whether it's HR or finance or say IT, no, it really pays uh, to be more careful, no, and just as you said, knowing who you're hiring.
So there, okay. So it's just now because it's very complex and it's very competitive. So people may actually be tempted to like fudge or
Oh,
exaggerate, like, some qualities that they have or
yeah.
some skills that they have. But before we entertain more questions and have, some, question and answer, Jan. Okay, I would like to greet, okay, people who are watching us. Okay, so we have our usual, okay, hi, HR Shouts and Whispers community members. Okay, so we have Miss Eka
I,
Aquino. Okay, she has like she has given her 2 cents. Okay, so relate siya sa topic na to. Okay, so she said that one of the major problems po talaga ng HR yan, yung mga nagfe-fake ng mga credentials.
yeah.
Okay, especially with small and medium enterprises because they don't have a third party
Yes,
provider.
absolutely yes.
And then who else? Okay, so a lot of people have been calling in their friends, okay, to watch this episode. And
Thank you.
then, okay, yeah, Miss Istrid Luna. Okay, so this topic is very much needed for recruiters.
Yes.
Yes. So let's park our thoughts for a while. So, Jan, I think you prepared
A
a
short
presentation.
presentation, yeah,
Yeah,
on
about
background
Vanguard.
screening and
Yeah.
Vanguard, yeah.
Mhm. So I'll give the floor to you, okay, and then
Okay.
to our viewers, okay. So let's lend our ears, okay, and focus on the presentation, okay. So I'll give the floor to you, Jan. So take it away.
Yeah. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah. I'll give a short presentation on background screening, especially here in the Philippines, and what Vanguard Screening can do, for your company. So first, let's talk about what is background screening. Okay, so what we call employment screening, it's usually used in conjunction with face-to-face interviews or skills and other tests like physical or drug tests to establish the fitness of a candidate for employment. Okay. So second, real background screening must be facts-based, not subjective. When we started Vanguard, no, we saw some sample reports from other screening vendors about 10, 11 years ago, where the reports are very subjective. You will see reports where they say, for example, Johnny Espino is a very quiet person. According to his neighbors, he's very studious, etc. So for us, that does not have any value, no, because it's very subjective, right? So when we say background screening, it must be facts based. So meaning it is verifying the candidate's declared information or credentials. And we verify by directly contacting the relevant entities like the school or the employer. Okay. Uh, Third, it must, as I said earlier, it must be done with the authorization of the subject. This is the number one requirement of the data privacy law. But even before it was implemented here in the Philippines, Vanguard always, because our my background as well as my partner in Vanguard, we came from a global background screening company, and that's how we got to know the industry. So even before the law in the Philippines was passed, we already became aware of the data privacy laws in the US and Singapore, in Australia, etc. So since we started, we only proceed with the check with the subject's authorization. So now, given all three, if your background screening report complies to all three, you can use them in administrative proceedings. No, for example, uh, you want to terminate someone because you were able to verify that he or she lied in his application or in his resume. If your report is fact based and not subjective, and the information was verified from the school or from the employer, you can then use this report to terminate him or her, right? But if it's just subjective, it's of no value. Okay, so that's what. No, so now why do background screening? And we discussed this earlier as well. Um, this is based on our records, no? About 11% of what we call cases have educational records discrepancies, 11%. And most of the discrepancies are minor, no? Minor meaning, for example, the candidate said, I graduated in March 1997. It turns out he graduated in April 1997. So that's fine. But there are also cases where the candidates really fake their diplomas or fake their transcript of records, no? Or both. Now, even more alarming, about 25% have discrepancies on their employment history. So what are these? No, they can range from incorrect dates. For example, he said, I started in January of 2011. It turns out he only started in June of 2011. And then, of course, we have the reason for leaving. And this is the most common discrepancy, no? You will seldom encounter a candidate that would declare that he left because he was terminated, or he left because he was asked to leave, no, by her former employer. They will always say, I left on my own, I left to study, I left to look for a better company, etc. We also have around 1% that have what we call hits, no, on at least one database. And what are these databases? We have the criminal database list, credit, and then we have the specialized global databases, even terrorism list. We can check if your name is in the anti-money laundering list of several countries, no?
Wow.
Yeah. We've actually, I think, seen one over our 11 years. No, we had one hit that said the candidate, because of the name, no, but we're not totally sure, is part of Al Qaeda, no, not a Filipino, but anyway. So, of course, some companies need to do this because of compliance requirements. For example, BPOs that hire nurses that service U.S. medical U.S. hospitals, for example, they need to be checked for a specific database, no, that regulates nurses in the U.S. So we do that as well. Of course, workplace safety, you don't want a hardened criminal or convicted criminal really working for you. Well, I'm not saying that you should not give them a chance, no, but you should know, right? So you can be more alert, di ba? And then, of course, bottom line, you need to limit the liability of your corporation, of your company, of your organization, no? Because of any of crimes committed by your employees can be your company can be held liable, no, for those crimes. So you need to be wary, and you need to verify, no. We always say you can trust, no, but you should verify. Trust but verify. No, okay. Now, and these are just some samples. These are actual emails that we got. These are education discrepancies. So in this email, if you can see, this person said that she graduated, but she only finished 22 units before leaving the school, you know. This one, there is absolutely no record about that candidate, no. So fake, the transcripts were fake, no? These are other samples that we routinely get, no, from the schools themselves, na usually undergraduate lang pala, no, but he declared that he finished his course. And these are sample employment discrepancies. Again, this person said separation type is voluntary. The school said no, we terminated him or her. The employee said he was a regular employee. The company said no, he was a contractual employee. No, so yeah, these are just samples. So if it's not clear, no, but the company basically said, this is not our logo, and this certificate of employment is fake. So the candidate presented the certificate of employment. Oh, so I was employed by this company. So the company went back to us and said, no, this is fake. Okay, so these are just sample discrepancies. And then some database discrepancies. For example, this person has a pending case. Okay, this person who's an Argentinian has numerous cases. No, so we can get this information. So now, your question earlier, some companies may say, we can do this ourselves, right? So why do we need to outsource? What's the benefit to us? So one benefit is we think we can do it more efficiently. Why? Imagine, for example, a company has 3 candidates. So these candidates went to 3 different schools and went to 3 times 2, no? So 6 different employers. So what would the HR person do now? He or she needs to research who to call in those 3 different schools. She needs to research on who to call in those 6 different companies, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, but for us, mention a school anywhere in the Philippines, we probably have done a check with that school before, so we know who to contact. Di ba? Just to give you an idea, every given month, we do about 7 to 8,000 school checks a month. 7 to 8,000, no? Sometimes even more. We do about 6,000 employment checks. So we have the database, and then we have the volume. So usually when we call a school, for example, especially the bigger schools, when we call them, we verify more than one person at a time, because of the volume. So for
Yeah,
example,
that's correct.
for
Yeah.
example, there's a candidate. He went to PUP Manila, one of the biggest. Every day we call PUP Manila, we usually verify 5 or 7 or even 10 names. So our people who do employment checks are first name basis, no, with the people in the schools, because they talk to them almost every day. So we can do it faster, no. Also, why build, no, when you can buy the expertise? This is the same concept as any outsourcing company, right? It's like, why do I outsource my legal requirements? Why can't I just hire a lawyer? Maybe it will be more expensive for you, di ba? Now, lastly, adopt global best practices. In most first world countries, actually, especially in, say, financials, they can't do it themselves. The regulators actually mandate them to use other people, to use a third party company. It's like, say audit, no, say yung auditing, no, yung audited financial statements. We all can say, why do I need to hire a third-party auditor to audit my financial documents? Why can't I just do it myself? I'm an auditor, for example. No, the law says a third-party company need to audit you, right? So this is the same in other countries, no? They can't actually background check themselves. Also, lastly, another benefit, protecting the privacy. For example, if I apply to a company, no, and then I know that the HR people there will do a background check on me. So will I be totally comfortable knowing that my future colleague knows many things about me, right? While us, we really don't know you. We just look at the facts and then we just send the report to the employer. So that's
You won't
that's one
have
benefit.
a relationship with that
Yes.
person.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Oh.
So that's one, I think, an underrated, no, benefit of outsourcing your background screening. So anyway, so who is Vanguard Screening Solutions? So we are actually one of the largest background screening services providers in the Asia Pacific region. No? So we are far and away the biggest in the Philippine market. We do about 100,000 cases, meaning we background check about 100,000 people annually. We have offices in Manila, in Cebu, and also in Singapore. No, we're incorporated there as well, and we are a member of various organizations, including PBSA. This is the background screening industry organization. No, it's global. We are we were the first Filipino company, and then now there are maybe a couple more who are members, but we're the only ones who usually go to the annual conferences, no. That's why so there are no there are hundreds of other screening companies globally. But for example, a Filipino applies for a job in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So the Australian background screening companies do not have any presence here in the Philippines. So they call us. No? So we serve a lot of background screening companies in other countries. No? So because they know us, so when they say Philippine background checks, it's Vanguard Screening. So we founded Vanguard. We are all Filipinos, no friends. We founded Vanguard in 2010. So we're now on our we're now on our 12th year. No? We celebrated our 11th anniversary last June. So and us, the founders, and some of our key people have been in the screening industry for maybe 15 years or even more. So we really know the ins and outs of background screening here in the Philippines. So what are our core principles? One is focus, no? This is the only thing that we do. We do screening and also due diligence, which is basically gathering and verifying information. We do not do any other HR related work, like we're not a recruitment company, even if it's quite related, right? So we could have been also a recruitment company. You know, we've been asked actually by some clients, why don't you do recruitment as well? But we think there's an inherent conflict. If you're a recruitment company and you also do background screening, remember, a recruitment company gets paid when your candidate gets hired, right?
But
While
what happens if you find something in your
yes,
candidate?
yes, exactly. So, 'di ba? Potentially. So, for example, in headhunting or recruitment, you get paid what? 2.5 months salary, right? Or 3 months salary. That's a lot of money. While in background screening, we only get paid what? 2,000, 3,000 per case. So if you need to choose between getting paid 150,000 pesos or 3,000 pesos, I'm sure you'll be tempted to get the 150,000, right? So no. Also, we're flexible. We tailor fit, no, to our clients' requirements as long as it's legal and it's doable. Okay. Um, Also, most importantly, as you know, data privacy and information security is very important now because of the theft of data. Okay. We are certified for compliance to ISO 27001. It's ISMS. It's the global standard on information security. We are the only screening company in the Philippines and one of only very few in the Asia Pacific region to be certified for this, which is I think this is very important to look for when you're outsourcing, no? Is my employee data safe with you, right? Lastly, as I said earlier, we only use official sources. So if it's an education check, we check with the registrar or college secretary. Okay. If it's an employment check, we go to the HR. There will be some companies who would say, no, we can commit to a shorter turnaround time. But why? How? I mean, how? They go to do an education check. Sometimes they call the ex-professor. Diba? Naging estudyante niyo ho ba si ganyan? Oo, nag-estudyante ko yun. Confirmed na. No? Kino-close na nila yung check. Yes, confirmed. No? He graduated. But the professor could not say that he graduated. He can only answer if he was a former student, right? But the professor would not necessarily know if he or she completed her degree, no? So for us, we don't do that. Okay? That's why we have the most accurate reports. It may take longer and it may be a little bit more expensive, but we have the most accurate reports. So what can we do in terms of checks, no? So we group them into three, no? First, what we call the personal checks. We can check if the address declared is the right address. We can check for any criminal and civil litigation records. We can do character reference checks, and we can do credit checks. So these are related to the individual. The second is what we call credentialing. We check the declared credentials, the educational credentials, like if the candidate declared he has a BS degree in mathematics, for example. So we check with the school. If he declared that he has some professional certification, we also can check that. And of course, we can check the employment details submitted, like the position, the salary, but salary sometimes it's optional. Meaning we could not force the former employer to disclose the salary. And lastly, what we call the compliance checks. These are the checks that are required by various industries. So these are quite specific. If you're in the financial industry, in the healthcare industry, there are some checks. And these are both local and international. So we think that we have the broadest menu of checks in the Philippines. As long as it's legally available, we probably can get that information. Now, you may be wondering, do we just check Filipinos, or can we just do checks in the Philippines? Actually, no. About 7% of our checks actually are outside of the Philippines. We have clients who are outside of the Philippines who do not hire Filipinos at all.
Mm-hmm.
So we can do that. We've done checks from virtually all continents already, I think. Yeah, all continents and dozens of countries. We either do it ourselves or we have partners. We have partners who do background screening in those countries. For example, say in China, we cannot speak Chinese. So
Oh, yes.
yeah, so we have partners. Just like how they use Vanguard Screening for Philippines checks, we use them for, say, a check in China or a check in Africa or check in Europe. Because of either legal or language barriers.
Well, it seems like an exciting process
Yeah.
for me.
So
Yeah.
so that's it. So we serve clients in virtually all industries, whether big or small. We have clients who only hire one person every month, or even one every other month. We have clients, the big BPOs, who hire thousands every month. So we don't discriminate, and any industry. Yeah. So I think that's the end of my presentation.
Okay. So I think, Jan, I think your camera became defocused.
Oops, sorry.
Yes. So that's the presentation. So my follow-up question is, okay, so you mentioned that, do you have like a basic package, or like, for example, I'm an HR, I only have one case. Can I enlist your services?
Absolutely. And also there's no set package on you need to check this and this. It's really up to your requirement.
I see. I see. So
Hello?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually, I think it's raining at your place. That's why I think
Yeah.
your signal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so HR friends, okay. So if you are, because I see a number of comments here, and then I think this is a service that's very much needed nowadays. So they're asking. So, but there's a you mentioned about objective and subjective. Okay, so can you like expound it? Okay, how can you prevent subjectivity? Because there's a question here. Okay, so usually, yeah, the reason for leaving a company, so sometimes it's too subjective, like maybe nagkaroon siya ng conflict with another person. Okay, so do you go to that extent? Do you try to find out the reason, like who, what did she have a conflict, or what
Yeah.
kind of, do you go to that level?
Yeah. Actually, we can, depending on if the client wants us to go to that level, we will. Um, but of course, when you go to say reference checking, or finding out the performance, what we call performance evaluation. Of course, performance evaluation and reference checking or character reference is by itself subjective, right? What when we say we want to be objective in our reports, we're referring to we will only put what the entity, when I say entity, no, the entity who's verifying the information says to us, no. Also, just to be more structured, we have a set script on what to ask, no. For example, if it's a former supervisor check, meaning we check with the former supervisor, we have a script that is pre-agreed, no. We usually send that to the client and say, this is our normal script. Do you want to add or remove some questions, no? So for example, if they agreed on the script, so we have a number of questions that we ask that is designed to get the most objective response. But of course, if the supervisor has a personal grudge, for example, on the employee, baka siraan. And of course, we could not do anything about that. No, we will reflect what the supervisor said in the report. And now, this is now up to the recruitment or the hiring manager to decide. Maybe or ideally, he needs to get the side of the candidate. No, so the candidate says this. Your former employer said this. Let's get to the truth. No, so that's what we do. We have a list of questions. Also, if I may add, as you probably know, a lot of companies here in the Philippines and HR people do not want to disclose if the candidate was terminated, no? Because usually here, instead of terminating, it's a mutual decision to just resign, di ba?
Yes.
It's quite
It's the
common, no?
practice.
It's actually the practice here, unlike in other, maybe say in the US. So if we ask them, did the person resign or did you terminate them? The person resigned because officially the person resigned because he was just asked to resign, right? So we then ask, does he have any cases, no? So again, the HR person could say no because technically hindi na final ang case, pinag-resign na lang, right?
Yes.
So now finally we ask, if this person applied to your company again, would you consider hiring him or her?
No.
So pag no, then we reflect that no. So again, why? Again, HR would probably say no comment. So we put that in our report, no. So no, it's up to you then, no, to make a judgment. Again, this is informed decision, ano. We never, by the way, as part of being objective, sometimes we're asked, can you put in your report if we can hire or not hire the person? No. We always say no because we're not the hiring entity. We're not the hiring company. It's you, no, meaning our client, who would make that decision. What we give you is a verification, a facts-based report. So we will never say hire this or do not hire this person, right? Because it's still up to the hiring manager or the HR person to make that decision. Even if, for example, talking just, of course, we also hire people, right? We've hired people who, as per their background check, they lied on one particular aspect. And then we confront them or we ask them, hey, why did you say you resign when your previous employer said you were asked to resign? No? And then we make the decision based on the answer, right? Remember, the report is just one tool. You have the face-to-face interviews. You may ask them to do some say diagnostic tests, no? So the report is just another tool for you to make a better decision. So that's what we mean by being very objective.
Yeah, that's correct. This is like also the the position on psychological assessments, okay,
Yes.
assessments during recruitment. So when you hire, you don't hire on the basis of one dimension.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a lot of factors. At the end of the day, kung siya talaga yung pinakamagaling,
Yeah.
okay, so you might probably risk, hiring that person
Mhm.
because that person based on sometimes not all the time it can be a skill issue pero
Yeah.
but all things being considered, if that person has the expertise, okay, and had the experience and knowledge, then maybe there are certain discrepancies, okay, on the assessment and then on the background checks, okay, that can cancel out
Yes.
these things,
Precisely.
diba?
Yeah. Precisely. I remember. No, we hired a person where when we did the background check, there was a case filed against her. Ano, ang tawag doon? Parang, ano siya eh, may namatay. I forgot the name of the crime, no? That pertains to yung naka-aksidente ka, nakasagasa. Parang ganon.
Mm.
So, sabi namin, hey, there's a record. You have a record. You did not declare this, but you have a record. So she explained. What happened was, I was driving, that person was driving a motorbike, nagbanggaan kami, namatay siya, automatically kakasuhan ako. Pero, because nakita na hindi ko kasalanan, I was na absuelto siya, no? So, na-explain niya sa amin. May record siya, but na-explain niya sa amin. So, we hired her. No problem, di ba? So, yeah.
Kasi there are a lot of perspectives on this.
Yeah.
But, a mature HR or a
Mm.
hiring manager that, that has a wider perspective will
Mm.
see through that. Kasi,
Yeah.
like, there are certain kasi issues. So, I'll tell you one, okay, sa, on termination. I've been a termination specialist for 25 years. Okay.
Oh.
So, yes, it's a practice. When I was younger, I would really just terminate. Okay. Wala, termination tayo. But when I matured, I would go for graceful exits. Because number one, it's still good to see somebody like because I actually experienced a phase. Okay, I was terminating people, and then they would be so devastated they will not be able to recover
Mm. Yeah.
after the termination from your company. So
Mm.
you'd see them spiral down. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's why it led to some parang epiphany now. The next time that I go for termination, I would just negotiate with management to have him have a graceful exit. But it depends also on the gravity of the offense.
Yeah.
Oo. So
Should
there are
be.
no hard and fast rules on that one. And so makikita mo when you look at the forums, there's a polarity of views on termination, and there's also it's like polarizing views
Mm.
on this, like hiring an ex-con.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I personally would want him to have a job. You know
Mm-hmm.
why? Because when he has a job, he probably will not return to a life of crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mga ganon. Yun yung
Uh,
stand ko doon. However, before that, but that was before, kasi ngayon nasa work from home na tayo eh. So
mm.
the possibility of, if you're on work from home, the possibility of him, like for example, ang crime niya, murder or homicide or whatever. So if you are, kasi kadalasan yung mga ano yan, yung mga drivers, they can have that kind of record. I discovered one when I was
Yeah.
managing a driver. Kasi makikita mo may tattoo sa hand. Okay. Ako kasi medyo curious ako sa mga ganyan. Natanong ko siya, but it happened years ago. So, pagka may physical kasi kayo, proximity, parang isipin mo baka gawin niya. Okay?
Yeah.
Pero pag hindi mo na naman siya I mean, if you've like, given him another job like a clerk and then nasa work from home kayo, yung proximity, wala na, di ba? So, parang yung probability of him, physically harming somebody, wala na. So, maybe,
Yeah.
okay. Yung mga ganong example, yung mga ganong decision making, we need
For
that.
sure.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So,
So again, but before you can make that decision, you need to find out, right? So if you did not know that may ganun siyang record, you won't be able to make that decision. So that's why what we're saying is we're here to enable HR people to make informed decisions.
that's correct. So,
Yeah.
Uh, Jan, there is one peculiar question among our viewers here.
Sure.
Okay. Uh, do you think it's necessary? So, this is actually not related to employment, but do you think it's necessary to do background screening on our politicians?
Well, that's up to you, ano? Well, actually, politicians are employees of the government, so that's actually employment
Mm,
screening, right?
yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, if they give a consent, no, you can do a background check on them.
Oo. Kasi,
Yeah.
yun, so this is like a peculiar questions here. I think we know now the sentiment of this person.
I think the
Okay.
government does that. Does that, naman. Uh,
Yes, when
yeah, I
they
think
do.
they do that. The ombudsman is there. And I think they do that, and they can do deeper background checks than we can, no, because they have the NBI and the police and etc.
I answered the questionnaire when this was my second job. I was working at the Senate. I answered a questionnaire and I actually signed a consent form for them to do a background check on me.
Yeah, I think
So,
they actually do that, but they probably won't release the report to us because we're
of
not the concerned
course.
parties.
Oh,
Yeah.
so yun.
Yeah.
So, and then what else? Okay, so well, anyway, this is like a very rather peculiar question. Okay, so what would you advise HR people? So you mentioned this your questions can be customized, okay? But what is the most common concern again? It's the reason for leaving the company.
Yeah. That's the most, I guess, I can say uh, the declared information that is most often found to be not true. So and I'm not saying majority of the time it's not true, no, but it's just that more people lie on that than other facts.
Okay, how about that? So yes, I did note, okay, that you also do like some sort of credit investigation. So what kind of jobs do credit investigation?
Sorry, what kind of jobs
There's like
require?
that, yeah, that require credit investigation. Like,
Well, as a as a best practice, and of course we're not in the position to say that you must do a credit check on this kind of employee, but as a matter of industry best practice, if you ideally, you need to do credit checks on people who are handling money,
mm,
financial, no, for example, in the US, um all casinos, for example, no, casinos, they do background screening, no, they're very strict. um the dealers or the money changers, or whatever you call them, the cashiers, no, they handle a lot of money, or the chips. So it's all about risk management, di ba? People who are in debt, people who have bad credit, are more susceptible to doing fraud. So, of course, we cannot generalize. This all based on risk management, or on your risk assessment. No? So, if you're handling money and you have money problems, personal money problems, there's a higher probability that you will do something bad. So yeah, so I guess that's my answer.
yeah, this one kasi, yes, I do understand your position because we're talking about, yeah, likelihood of
Yeah.
committing a certain it's a violation or infraction in the company. So this is actually tied up on your employee management philosophy or employee discipline management philosophy. So if that's why we've been teaching here, that's what we've been teaching here in HR Shouts and Whisters, is to have a program, okay, for your to be able to offer these things. Okay, so if you're going to have a vendor like Vanguard, you have to tie it up, okay, into a holistic approach.
For sure.
Kasi yung iba ano na gatekeeper mentality na, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
pagka ganito, ito, okay, tanggal
Yeah.
na yan. No, wag
Mm.
ganon, okay. So anyway, so do you have any advice for HR personnel who are planning to do backgrounds, having to, if I'm going to enroll
Yeah.
a background screening program?
Yeah. So one, I mentioned before in my presentation, so obviously this might be self-serving, but we recommend you outsource rather than do it yourself for so many reasons that I mentioned earlier. Now, when you're looking for a third-party background screening vendor, among the things that you should look out for, is, well, besides the price, cheaper is not always better. Okay, you need to take a look on their infrastructure. Remember, you're giving them access to the personal information of your employees or applicants. And the data privacy law says that when that information is compromised, even if your third-party screening vendor is the one, for example, hacked, you, the hiring company, are the ones legally liable for it. So, because you're the data controller, the candidate applied to you, they gave you their personal information, you just subcontracted the work, outsource the work to, say, Vanguard. So if Vanguard gets compromised, you will be held liable, not Vanguard. Vanguard will be liable to you because you are because they're their vendor, but to the law, you're liable. So you should look for a background screening company who is who puts importance, and spends a little bit of money on making sure that that the information of your candidates and employees is protected. I think that's something that needs to be highlighted, because we're now in the age of information. Personal data is very, very expensive, it's very, very valuable now, that's why hackers usually target personal information, right? So one, make sure that your potential vendor really protects the information that you supply to them. And second, some companies consider background screening as just another tick box, masabi lang na ginawa, That's what we call masabi lang. So they look for the cheapest company or the company that can commit to submit a report within, say, 3 days or 5 days. Kasi they consider it just another tick box, So for example, that company will charge you 1,000 or 1,500 pesos. But why don't you just pay 2,000 or 2,500 for a report that's actually accurate? Di ba? Parang nagbayad ka na rin lang ng 1,000 or 1,500, dagdagan mo na ng konti. Kunin mo na yung reliable and maghintay ka na ng ilang araw, a few days more, and get an accurate report. Sayang naman, if you think about it, how much are you going to pay the person? The minimum wage now is how much? 12,000 sa Manila?
Around that one.
So you're going to pay that person 12,000 a month, as long as he's employed, and then may increase, may iba ka pang mga cost, statutory, etc. Why not pay one time? Say 2,000 or 2,500 pesos or 3,000 pesos. Just one time. Just one time to make sure that you're hiring, that you know who you're hiring, right? In the grand scheme of things, it's not that you're not gonna pay 3,000 every month. It's one time. If you're gonna employ that person for 2 years, 3,000 divided by 24 months. So parang nagbayad ka lang ng ng ilan ba 'yon? 10 piso o 15 pesos per month na pwede mong hiwalay.
So it goes a long way kasi you're
Yes,
going to be
absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be sure of the person is who she
Yeah.
is. That she, I mean,
Yeah.
what she claims to be,
Yeah.
she is. Okay, so
It's all about managing your risk. Again, we do not commit na if you do a background check, that person will not do anything bad.
you
Absolutely
cannot predict
no.
that. You
We
cannot
cannot. We
predict
cannot
that.
predict that, no. It's all about checking yung background niya. So again, pwede rin namang hindi niya ginawa yun before but gagawin niya ngayon. Hindi natin magagawa, hindi natin yan, no? We cannot predict that. It's all about managing risk. If you lower your risk, enough, I think that's already acceptable. Also, no, remember I mentioned or I gave the statistics earlier, no, like 11% of educational checks are have inaccuracies, 25%. But these are checks that we did, meaning these persons knew that they will be background checked by Vanguard. But still, they lied. Imagine if your company do not do background screening. The applicants know that you don't check. So, isn't it logical that for companies that do not do background screening, the incidence of discrepancies is higher, di ba?
Actually, that's higher kasi I remember I worked for a medium-sized company before. They would actually, kasi I came in as HR, they would even openly admit it to you that they didn't put something that they were, like for example, yung mga 3 months,
Yeah.
hindi nila nilagay doon kasi they were fired. Or
Mm.
they went out AWOL.
Wall,
Yun
yeah,
yun.
that's actually one of the more common discrepancies, no? Yung reason for leaving nila, and then usually sabi ng company, nag-AWOL sa amin yan eh. While they declared I resigned. No? Yeah, so yeah, it's all about managing your risk and then making an informed decision. No? So
So,
yeah.
ako naman, since discover ko na regular na, wala nang magawa. Okay,
Oh
so,
yeah. Oh.
and then, kasi there are actually things in the in the employee discipline management policy that you can do. Like, for example, like probationary employees, if you find out like within the 3 months, there's such a thing as a contract then that you lied in your
Yeah.
application, then you can be terminated.
Yeah. That's the
But
best
that's
practice.
if
Yeah.
but that's if it's in the contract and it's
Yep.
in your policy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the very best actually practices in the application. You mentioned, okay, the consent. So in your application forms, there should already be that fine print that they
Yes. For
consent.
sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
For sure. Yeah. So ideally, well, not ideally. Yeah. Ideally, you need to complete a background check before you regularize them. So before
Yes.
the 6 month.
Kasi yung if you look at the turnaround time, dapat kasi there are flexible policies now for submitting the requirements. So ngayon yung deadline na is on the 3rd month. Kasi
Okay.
dati parang before you enter the company, you should have completed all the requirements, the background check na.
Yeah.
But given now, okay, and especially during the pandemic, mahirap to get all those kinds of information. The best practice now is to extend it on the 3rd, diba?
Third month. Yeah.
Up to the 3rd month, yun yung pinaka-deadline mo.
Yeah.
So you can still make an informed decision. But also, one of the reasons then why it's being extended to the 3rd month, kasi tinitingnan din yung performance ng tao. Kasi, diba, despite everything, diba, what can't you lie about? You can't lie about your performance, your actual performance, diba?
Yeah, just like
So,
just like we cannot predict if a person that is clear in background checks will not do anything bad. No, we also could not say that a person who did not pass a background check will do good, no, in his current employment. Kasi, people change or people make mistakes. No? So, yeah.
Yeah, so there are like those are our learnings naman, okay, and I think those are what you experience and good nuggets of wisdom to impart to our HR
Yeah.
professionals.
Yeah. If I may, no, I can share a couple of stories, no. Um, a few years ago, there was a case where uh, so we did a check on this person. He said that he graduated from this school. The school said no, that person did not complete his degree. So we reported it to the employer, to our client. The
Mhm.
person came back and gave a diploma. And he said that, hey, that's not right. I graduated from that school. This is the diploma. And I even had this authenticated with DFA when I went abroad. So I think they call it red ribbon certification. So this diploma from my school was red ribbon, no, by DFA when I worked in, I think, Singapore, for example. So why are you saying that I did not graduate? So of course our client came back to us and then they gave us a copy of the diploma. So we of course went back to the school. Hey, you said that this person did not graduate. Why did you issue a diploma to him? The school said, okay, now we remember. We fired our registrar a couple of years ago because we found out he was selling diplomas.
Mhm.
So the diploma actually came from the registrar's office, so it's authentic from that school. But it was granted to a non-graduate because I think the registrar got bribed. No, so that's a strange and concerning incident. No, so even if the diploma is not from recto, uh, even if the diploma came from the school, you're not 100% sure pala. Because some schools, no, some registrars, no, I guess that specific registrar accepted bribes to issue diplomas.
Okay, so there's a question here. Okay, what if the HR or the company was in a hurry to hire the person? Then hire the person.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, for me, just hire the person, but then you have to have the checks in place or your policies in place. Like for example, you will still go through the it's something that happens, okay, like simultaneously
yeah,
while the person is
yeah.
already hired. You
I
will
think it's
have to tell.
conditional hiring. I think they call it
Oh,
conditional hiring. You're hired and you will be regularized subject to the successful completion of your background check. So some companies do that. No?
kasi ang what's actually this one, okay, so our episode actually talks about background screening, but the whole program is you have to be, okay, so you have to have policies in place what to do with those people when they commit the violation. It's actually under fraud
Yeah,
or yeah, fraud, falsification of
yeah,
documents. Okay,
yeah.
those are the violations. So you have to have a complete process. Okay, so this one is just a facet. So we are giving you this evening an example of why background screening well pays in the long run. Pardon
Yeah.
the pun. Okay. Yun. But
Absolutely.
I actually relate to your story because a few months ago, so in HR Shouts, we answer questions. And this one was a violation in a school. Okay, so what happened was the registrar, the one in charge of the records, was caught being bribed.
Mm.
Okay. And then yeah, that can happen, especially if the school is not computerized. Well, whether it's computerized or manual, it
Yeah.
still happens, okay? Because it's the person.
Yes. Yeah.
So so binabribe siya and then she can actually list you and actually she can list you sa diploma, yung pag-issue ng diploma and then they can give you an actual diploma. So yun. But I think that what cannot be faked is, if you are attending a subject and getting a grade.
Mm.
Yun, gano'n. Pero now, kasi depende yan eh. We cannot say for sure kasi people who want who want to
Yeah,
earn a little extra, they're
for
so
sure. Yeah. Oh.
creative.
Yeah, for sure. Oh. Walang 100% foolproof.
Okay. So now, okay, so there. So Jan, do you have like other services that you would want our HR members to know?
Yeah. So, Vanguard Screening, we do background screening and also what we call due diligence. So what is due diligence? It's a catch-all term uh, for example, you're a food business and you're franchising.
Mm-hmm.
So, we recommend that you background check also your potential franchisors, right? Because they will not be your employees, but they will be representing your brand, right? So that's something that we do and that we can do for you, no? We can. It's not technically back employment screening because they're not employees, but ideally you also background check your potential franchisors, no? So that's called due diligence. We can also check your say potential distributors or suppliers if you want, so we can check their uh, company papers, and the people behind the company, so that service falls under what we call due diligence. um, Also, we have, as you mentioned earlier, we have a sister company called Vanguard Workforce Mobility that provides services related to expatriates, both actually inbound and outbound. If you have foreigners coming into the Philippines to work here, so we can handle their immigration requirements, the paper requirements. We can look for appropriate housing or even schools for their children, And then,
Yeah.
and then of course we're supporting a particular company for their Filipino employees who are deployed abroad. So we also can handle their visa requirements or passport requirements. Yeah,
Wow.
so that's what we do. Yeah, but for background screening, it's basically verifying information. If you want to verify information, wag lang yung personal, no? Like for example, meron kang girlfriend o may
Parang
manliligaw sa'yo.
PI na yan. Parang
Yeah, we of course we can do that, but we don't want to do it. We refuse to do it. We refuse to go between personal yung personal issues. Yeah.
But anyway, so anyway, there were actually we also learned a few tricks na ginagawa ng mga fraudsters ngayon.
Sure.
Okay,
Oo, madami.
so, madami na. So naging akala ko that actually parang dissipated na kasi alam ko 2005, 2008 hanggang ngayon pa pala may
Yeah, sure.
nagfe-fake.
Oo.
Oo.
Sure. Also, siguro if I can share din, no, may another story before we close, no. So there's this we service one of the biggest and newest casinos, no, here in the Philippines, no, when they were starting pre-operating. So they recruited a person, a Filipino working in a casino in Singapore. So I think he has been working in the casino industry for like 17 or 19 years na. So they hired him because he's an expert in casino operations. But apparently he did not finish his bachelor's degree. 80s pa, no? So when he applied to our client, he misdeclared. He said that he was a graduate.
Mm.
So we background checked him. The school said no, he did not finish. And then the candidate said, no, I finished. This is my diploma and my transcript of records. We went back to the school again, and then the school said, no, those are fake. These are the actual. So now of course, we gave a report to our client, and then they pulled the offer. Unfortunately for the candidate, he already resigned from his current employer in Singapore. So umiiyak daw siya, no? Sabi niya, nag-resign na ako, bakit ganon? but the HR team of our client told him, we're not hiring you because of your degree. Your degree has nothing to do with casino operations, whatever that degree is, right? We're hiring you because you've been doing this for almost 20 years, casino operations, and not because we do not even care if you graduated or not. But what we care about is in the casino industry, it's trust and confidence. How can we trust you if in your application in our first transaction together you lied to us, right? So the they pulled back the offer sheet, no? So it's all about establishing din yung trust. If you it's very difficult if you're not able to trust your employees, right?
Well, actually, yes. Trust is actually an issue, but
Yeah,
John, and this actually, I'm an HR practitioner
yeah.
myself, but I've been like, swinging from operations to, no, to HR, and I also noticed, well, just so okay for HR professionals, like kasi we've been going through tools here in HR, shouts and whispers, psychological test, okay, pre-employment test,
Yeah.
and then background screening. There are HR practitioners that are narrow-minded, and that's why we are also inviting professionals like you and the vendors like you
Mm.
to open up their eyes, okay? Because when a person, because diplomas are really big in Asian countries, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I would imagine that that's why people lie, okay, in about their educational background.
Mm.
So, like I remember, there was a time I was like interviewed by one of the biggest retail companies here in the Philippines. Okay, I got in, but I was very accurate. My master's degree, okay, that was one of my disappointments. I was not able to finish it, so it's MA units lang.
Mm.
But I parang umabot ako hanggang compre and then the first chapters of my thesis. But I wasn't able to finish it because, well, my attention, my interest waned. Okay. So anyway, what happened was I said I didn't finish it because I found another calling, which was HR. So yun yung sabi ko. But when they interview you kasi they're very judgmental. Like they have a
Yeah.
face. Oh, you didn't finish your degree. Mga
Yeah.
ganong mga tono. 'Di ba? Parang ganon. So I think it's a lesson also for HR, lalo na sa mga recruiters. Okay? So don't actually be subjective when you do your interview. And then even if you have a certain personal opinion, maybe you shouldn't make it part of the interview or your interaction with the applicant.
Yeah.
yun,
Yeah.
yun ang aking, oo, diba?
Yeah.
Kasi it can be the application process and interview process. It's nerve-wracking enough
For sure. Yeah.
for candidates. So don't make it, don't be a judge.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
so do your job in recruitment, but you
Mm.
shouldn't render any subjective judgment. Okay,
Yeah.
be objective.
Yeah. And talking about say degrees, no. So degrees are, I think, important in very few cases. Like for example, you need to hire a licensed architect or accountant. Obviously, you need someone who graduated and then passed the board exam, no. But for
Yes.
the vast majority of positions, I don't think finishing the degree is mandatory, right?
Like yeah, for the particular your example,
Yeah.
if he only declared na kasi 1980s pa siya, 'di ba?
Yeah,
Tapos may
oo.
career na siya. I think he
Yes.
can afford
Yes.
not to say that he graduated
Yeah.
kasi it could have been an achievement pa nga kasi you
Yes.
didn't
Yes.
graduate but you had this ano.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, kasi that's actually the lesson learned here during background checks because
Mm.
a lot of people they actually fudge their resumes, okay, and then in the long run it actually will catch up on you.
Yeah. Eventually.
So, well, the only thing that I found in my resume, I think it was my weight.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There are work discrimination laws. No, so don't ask. Don't even ask.
Uh,
Actually, yeah, I find it funny when applicants, no, of course we receive applicants applying to Vanguard, no, and then they put their height, weight, religion.
mhm.
I guess a lot of, especially the younger ones, needs to be educated on what not to put in their resumes.
Kasi well, I coach those who are, I coach job seekers, and I
Yeah,
just tell them to like focus on their functional
yeah,
skills and then etc. Kasi hindi na naman importante ngayon yung mga
yeah,
yung height, weight,
yeah.
religion.
And there actually work this anti-discrimination laws, no, that you actually could not ask, right?
Yeah, I think that there is like I think for recruitment. Okay, so this is a very rich subject area because the questions that you should be asking, there's a lot of well, there needs to be a lot of coaching that needs to be done
Yeah,
there. Okay, because alam mo, this one has something to do, I think, with mixing yung person, yung alam mo yung TMI, too much
yeah.
information area. So there are candidates that are TMI, and then there are interviewers that TMQ, too much questioning.
Oh, too much question. Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Uh, so anyway, Jan, okay, any final words? Okay, as we had a very productive discussion, and actually we are over time,
Oo
but
nga,
it's
yeah.
okay. Yeah, but thank you. We actually appreciate your time today.
Sure,
But
yeah.
any final words for our viewers?
Yeah, so if anyone is curious on how you can do background screening for your company, just go to our website, www.vanguardscreen.com. So there are a number of options on how you can contact us. And we're more than happy to set up a discussion with you, no? And even if you're, a smaller company, smaller organization, no, with only a handful of employees, I think background screening your employees, no, if you only have 10 employees, no, so even if one is a potential problem employee, that's already 10% of yeah of your workforce, no? So yeah, it's I think it's very important. It's all about managing your risk.
Yes, and to know more about Vanguard Screening Solutions, okay, so you can also like look at the contact information, and then I believe you have your occasional ads
Yeah,
in
sure.
HR Shouts and Whispers.
Sure, yeah.
So yes, so they can get in touch with you through the contact numbers there. So Jan,
Yes.
thank you for this
Okay, thank
interview.
you, Christina. I really enjoyed our discussion.
Yes. And to our viewers, okay, so remember, okay, so just have a process involved in recruitment, okay, and then having the right tools, okay, and having the right vendors is your key to recruitment success. Okay, so bye bye for now and see
Okay,
you
bye-bye.
again next week. Bye bye. During the pandemic, why don't you upskill in the comforts of your own home? Improve and add more certificates in your resume. Simple, direct, easy. Visit the playlist in our YouTube channel. Browse through our videos and choose the video that interests you. Send in your requests for a particular video and we will send back the certificate via email. Watch this full video for the details.